Good morning, everyone. So, just to recap what we have covered, so we started defining the activities first in the receivables. So, first we have covered the O2C cycle, where we have discussed on the concept of order management, inventory, then receivables, receipts, then cash management. Yes. Then we have started with activities where we have defined two are mandatory in the activities. One is the earned discount and the unearned discount. And apart from that, miscellaneous cash or adjustments, these are all part of the activities. Then after activities, we have defined in terms of remit to address, which is also mandatory. Then we have defined the concept of approvals. So approvals are within the receivable. So it's for three types. One is for the adjustments for receipt write-off and credit card refund. So apart from that, we have also defined the auto accounting rules. Excuse me. So we have defined the auto accounting rules, which are important to pick the transactions either from the constant values like company or from the department, or we can have dynamic values like from transaction sites, customer sites, or standard lines as well, or salesperson. Then we have defined the transaction types where we have covered like how the transaction to be, where we can also give a defaulted accounts. Then we have defined the transaction sources, and we have also covered in terms of the receipts. To have the receipts is mandatory to have the bank defined. And then we have also within the receipts we have covered the various accounts which we required for cash and cash clearing, unidentified receipt confirmation, applied, earned discount, unearned discount. So this is an overall. Then we have assigned the roles of receivables to the user. So then we open the accounting period. Then we started doing the transaction. So we can copy the transaction from the earlier one to the new one. It is bit quick and fast. So this is the overall about the receivables which we have covered as of now. So let's now get into a few more setups on the receivables side. So I'm into receivables now, customer billing. So under the customer billing, there is something called as manage standard memo lines. So if you remember in the accounts payable, we had the concept of distribution set where we used to give the account, but this is something different in standard memo lines. So I click over here. I'm going to create it. So here I can give it in common set so that it is available for all the business units. So here I will just give the name as TCS standard. So let's say in this one I will give it for consulting services. So we can have multiple standard memo lines. So description type is what this is like we can have different memo lines, chargeback, charges, freight line, for tax as well. So we'll just keep it as line. I will explain what it means. So unit of measure, if I want to give, there are different unit of measures which are available, or these are all seeded information which we can give it, or we can leave it blank. Invoicing rule, again we can just leave it blank, starting from 1st of August, and then this account. So what is the purpose of giving this account? If you remember in the auto accounting, when we are talking about the revenue account, there was something as a standard line. So when the transaction is being created or generated, we can have the credit account from this from these standard lines. Debit account will be the receivable account, which can be from transaction type or customer side, and the credit account will be coming from this reference. The credit account is nothing but the revenue account, which can be coming from this one. So I will just select it business unit. Search. So there will be only one account which will be represented from the memo line. We are going to select this revenue. So if it is, for example, consultation, the moment the user selects the consulting services, then we need to have the revenue as consultation. So let's say this is the one. Let's see if we have the consultation or not. Okay, we did not upgrade implementation. Okay, so we will select this implementation. Okay. So now we have defined this, save and close. If you want to define multiple, you can always define this. So now this is done. So now let's go back to our auto accounting. Go back to receivable, manage under customer billing, manage auto accounting rules. Okay, so you could see that we have the revenue here, and we just want to click on this account. We want to change it, this one PCS account. So we want to give, instead of transaction type, standard line. So here also we want to have, instead of this, standard line. Save and close. I'm just changing it for the revenue. If you see, for receivable you will not get, only for the revenue you will get is standard line. Save and close. So now this is done. Let's go back into some transaction to see the reflection. Go back to billing. If you want, we can create or copy the transaction, but let's create the transaction. So the business unit, yes. So if I want to give the transaction source, you can just give it. So bill to else. So here currency and all those stuff. Then let's give that. Okay, so here we are talking about the transaction line. So in these invoice lines, memo line, so we select from this one. So whatever we have created, that will be available here. So you could see that this is the one we just created now, few minutes back. So this will be available. So this is more helpful for the users, and also this will ensure that any data entry mistakes are avoided. So users select this, for example, and we can also define the quantity and price as well over there, but I did just kept it open. So here we are just mentioning as 50,000. So now this is done. We will save this first. We will have complete and review. Then post to lectures. So let's see the accounting. So revenue receivable is debited 50,000, and you could see the revenue which is credited, and you could see the account. If you see this, this is the account which is coming from the standard line. So implementation project. Why it is coming? Because in the auto accounting, we have given that the system should pick the revenue account from the standard line. So in the real world also, so let's take another example. I have a electronics shop. So in that, I want to have revenue in terms of laptop. I, I want to have revenue in terms of mobiles. I want to have revenue in terms of projectors, printers. So for each product, I can give a different account, and that should be coming directly from the auto accounting to standard lines, from standard lines to the transaction. So this is all about the standard memo line. Why it is, why I have covered this? The reason is it is very important to understand the memo line, because in the interview they will ask a scenario telling that I want to have a different revenue accounts. Can I achieve that? Yes, we can achieve through memo lines as. So this is one of the important topics. Any questions here, please? Okay, so let's save and close. Okay, so before that, let me create one more transaction quickly, and this will be now the multi-currency transaction. Yes. So here, instead of INR now, we are going to give the USD. So the moment we give a USD here, you could see that there is a conversion rate. So if I click over here, you could see the corporate rate, it will be displayed as 82. Why it is coming 82? In the general ledger, in the reporting, in the GL setup, Under the currencies, after that there is the exchange rate. So this particular rate is over there. So based on that, the system is picking. If I want to give a dynamic rate, I can always select it as a user or what. User means I can enter my own one. So let's say I will just give it as 80. Then we are going to select the customer. So here I can select again 1,000 dollars. So now it will show here as 1,000. Complete and review. View image. You could see that it will show the balance due in dollars, which is $1,000. So now we are going to have the postal ledger view accounting. So here you will find the transaction being reflected. So always the multi-currency it will be entered and the accounted will always be the functional currency. So 1,000 is equivalent to 80,000 and you could see the revenue is being reflected from the standard line. So this is the one of the relevant currency we have entered. Save and close. Now we will move to the receipts part, which we will continue on the receipt side. So we are talking about accounts receivable. So we are going to create a receipt. Create receipt. So we are going to have the standard one. Receipt method we already created as TCS. So we can also give a number, which is TCS RCPT 001. So amount is I want to insert 55,000. So receipt date, accounting date. What is maturity date? When we discuss on bills receivable, we will discuss it. Then remittance bank. Bank is important and mandatory before we create any receipt. And now we are going to select the name or account number of the customer. So if here, George will have this customer, right? And here we are going to have submit and apply manually. So I click on this one. So now you could see entered account and accounted amount. It is unapplied. So I click here on add open receivables. So the moment I click on that, system will give me a search for the transaction, which can include all these criteria. It can be inactive customers, cross currency, close transactions, debit memo, credit memo, everything. If I want to select specifically for a particular transaction number, I can search based on that, or I can search, just click on search. I will get those transactions which are relevant to it. Now you could see that there are two transactions which are there. So this is invoice number 2001 and this one. So I will just have, let me have this one, 85,500, add that. So now you could see that there is a applied amount. Why it is applied amount? No, because here, see, it is not that, for example, I got my telephone bill. So I'm using, for example, Airtel or Vodafone. So I got a bill of 5,000, but I just paid 3,000. At least something to maintain, not to get disconnected. So that is possible. So whatever the entered amount is there, if I'm going to select for that invoice, so it is all applied amount. So you could see here the total applied amount is 55,000. Amount actually for this invoice is it is 80,500, 85,500, but still this amount is due from the customer. And you could see that this being within 2 by 10 payment terms, so discount is also calculated for this one because based on the payment terms which is attached to this invoice. Now we can save this. Actions. I can post to ledger, view accounting. You could see that confirm cash is 55 because confirm is nothing but we have definitely received 55,000. So that goes as a debit. Then there is no unapplied. So whatever amount which we have received, completely we have applied it. So you could see the receivable which is credited 55,000. This is one part of applying the transactions, which is completely like my amount is 55, so I apply completely 55. And one important thing is this invoice, particularly which we are talking about, it will not be closed unless the amount due is completed. So this is the concept of open invoices. And when we do the implementation, I mean to say when we move the data from the old systems to the new systems, we have a concept of data migration. So data migration is nothing but all those invoices which are open needs to be migrated because maybe customer will make a receipt or will make a payment after 2 months or 3 months. So all those open invoices has to be carried forward. So now if you see this one is an open invoice, the reason is amount is due. Unless and until customer makes complete payment for this one, this invoice or transaction is not considered as close. So for that reason. Okay. So now you could see that there is some actions over here. And if you click over here, we have some more. So what is the purpose of having this one? So create write-off. Write-off means sometimes what happens is the customer says, oh, please, I cannot make it, like I have a due of 30,500. So I cannot make it 5,500 or something like that, or 10,000 for some reasons. So then we are going to create a write-off for the customer. So I click over here. You must set the system option write-off limits per receipt. It means to say that we are getting an error. So where what it is trying to say, where it is trying to show us in the system option, there is a receipt write-off limits are there for receipt. We have to set that. In the error, there are two things. If it is error means we cannot do the receipt write-off. There may also be warning, then we can continue. But let's fix this issue. Okay, one important thing is this is a sort of a troubleshooting during the support projects. So the user calls us, says that I cannot apply the receipt right now. Then we tell the user, please share the screenshot, and you could see here that there is this number. This is a very standard Oracle support number. Support means error number. So if I search in the service Oracle support website, then I can get the solution for this. The other way to get the solution for this is just copy this as it is, go back to Google. So let me just put it search. Okay, so now let me share the screen. I put it in the Google. So you will find that Oracle will help us to how to set up the receipt write-off amount limit. So we log in. So every customer will have a uh, Oracle account with which they log in and they can resolve this issue. So it will be provided the solution over there. So this is how normally we support in the projects. So let's do that now we're talking about. So I will save and close. So let's go back to setup. So we are into financials. We are talking about receivables, receivable system options. We will query our business unit. Because we already defined, so we just need to query. I will use the other browser. So this browser is having some setup. Receivables, system options. Search. We need to go to advanced search. So this is our business unit. We enter it. We get the details. Now we want to edit it. So click on edit, and it is saying something about the receipt. That you should have minimum this much of receipt. So we click on cash processing. So you could see here from write-off limit for receipt to write off. So this one we need to mention it. So we want to have a write off, for example, from 1 to, let's say, 10,000. So this is what the system was telling to have it. Minimum refund amount will also enter. So this one from write-off limit per receipt. So we can set it per receipt how much it should be from 1 to 10,000. So now we save and close. Done. Go back to receivables. Now we are going to, let's query the same receipt which we have entered. So we can query based on the date, base date. So this is the receipt which we created. Edit. So again we go back to action, more, receipt write-off. So now you could see that earlier that error was there of receipt write-off. Now that error is not there because we have change in the setup. And you could see receivable activity for each, like receipt write-off, miscellaneous cash, we should always define the receivable activities. So it is mandatory account because this is the account which will be reflected. So what we can do is again go back and define the setup. So we go back again to setup and maintenance. Why the reason I am shifting every time to setup is to show you the importance. If we don't define what sort of errors we get and how to resolve it as a part of support activity. So we are into receivables. So this is the first receivable activities. So we can also define here to that a receipt write-off account if you want. So what we will do is we will have value set values. We'll use the account manage values. I will have it as value 59001. Save and close. Now we will use the same account in the receivable act. Receivables, receivable activities. So we are going to create a new one. One important thing is I could see that you are getting a error when you are creating this receivable activity. Many of them are getting the transport information. So don't select as activity. The moment if you by mistake select as activity, the system will ask for the put. So for that reason, always have it as none. Even if you select invoice, you will get that. Always select as none. So the system will not ask for any. So this, yes, this is the one. Now we are going to have here the receipt write-off. So now you understand the importance of defining the receivable activities. So these are nothing but having either the plus or minus to the transactions or receipts. So we define all the activities over here. Receipt write-off. So we will mention the same thing here. Receipt write-off account. So 5 series, 59 we have mentioned. We can select this account. So whenever any receipt write-off is done, the system will this save and close. You could see that in the auto accounting, you don't have this receipt, this activity accounts. Why? Because auto, auto, this one, auto accounting rules will have only two accounts, which is receivable and revenue. We are done with this. Now, let's go back and enter the transaction. Now we go back to receivables, accounts receivable, query for today's launch. Select this, edit, actions, more, write off. I want to have 1,000 and you will find out the account this one. Click OK. And you could see that for this transaction, this is the applied amount of 1,000. So automatically the balance of the customer will be reduced because of this write-off. I can save the transaction. You could see that you must enter an applied amount that is less than the received amount. Why you are getting this error? Because already, if you remember, we entered 55,000. So here, either I entered as 56,000 and 1,000 will be part of the receipt cycle. Because we already used this 55,000, that is the reason it is giving that error. So now you could see that the system has entered amount is 56,000, total applied amount is 55,000. There is one receipt write-off of 1,000. So if I want to give actions, post to ledger, so you could see write-off is coming as a credit. So this is all about the receipt write-off. Now let's save and close. Or let's create a receipt which is miscellaneous one. Miscellaneous means, as I mentioned, maybe we sell off some computer, old laptops or printers. Then we receive the cash, but there is no customer. It is a walk-in customer or ad hoc. So in that scenario, we are going to select receipt type as miscellaneous. It is mandatory to understand how to practice it because in the interview, definitely they will ask the difference between a standard receipt and a miscellaneous receipt. For miscellaneous receipt, the setup is done through the receivable activity. We always need to remember that. So here I'm going to select the business unit, receipt method. You're going to select here. I can give as RCPT MISC. So you could see the moment I select this receipt as miscellaneous, the system will ask me the receivable activity. So if you remember, we already created the miscellaneous cash, means that account will be reflected. So here I'm going to enter the amount, which is, let's say, 5,500. So now you could see that there is no customer. Customer is grayed out. You cannot select either the customer nor you can select any apply. Apply means you cannot select any transaction over here. For miscellaneous, always remember there will not be any customer, nor if customer is not there means obviously there will not be any transaction or the invoice as well. So we just save it and receipt number has been created. In the actions, I can just post to ledger. Why I'm doing always this as post to ledger mandatory? Because with this we also learn the accounting. So what happens when we create a miscellaneous receipt? So cash is debited and miscellaneous receipt is credited. So this is the complete transaction on the miscellaneous receipt. If we did any mistake, let's say it was not 5,500. So then the only way is to do the reverse of this. Reverse means the system will reverse this transaction. Why we need to do reverse? Because we already accounted and the data is transferred to GL. When we do the reverse, again the data will be created and it will be moved to GLS. So I could give receipt, reverse miscellaneous receipt. What is the category? Maybe non-sufficient funds or reverse payment or stop payment. It can be anything. So I will just mention as reverse payment. And the reasons, it can be wrong amount or we could not, it's wrong. Just we will just give it as uncollectible or some non-sufficient funds, for example. Then reverse it. So now whatever we have entered, the system will revert it. So if you click on post to ledger, it is mandatory to do post to ledger after reversing because it has to impact the GM. So now you could see that confirmation is reverse, cash confirmation. So this is all about in terms of receipt reversals.
Sir, what is the necessity of creating miscellaneous receipt? In which scenario it will be applicable?
Okay, so let's say for example, I I'm into TCS right now. So we identified, right, we have lot of laptops and every year sometimes what we do is we decide to sell off few of the laptops to the staff in very discounted value. So we want to dispose of the old laptops which are almost like 2 to 3 years back. So then we announce it telling that the staff can avail this offer of purchasing the laptop from TCS. So then, because staff is not a customer and we don't want to store any information about the customer because it is not credit basis, it is a direct cash basis. As we announce, each customer will walk in to either to the relevant department and they will have the laptop of their choice, whatever it is, and they will make a payment to TCS. So in that scenario, we are going to create the miscellaneous receipt. Means the employee no need to be part of the customer. And obviously, I will have a bank account because my salary is being credited to that bank. I can make it through the bank. I can make it as a cash as well. This is one of the reasons of having the miscellaneous receipt or miscellaneous cash. I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so we'll create one more receipt. So receipt method, again, I'm using the same. So CS RCPT 9001. Entered amount is 1,000. So here we are going to select the name. The moment we select standard, it becomes mandatory to have the customer number and all those things. So then we are going, here we have something called as add open receivables. Add open receivables means it's nothing but we are going to enter the same screen of searching the transactions. So I can click on search. So I will get these relevant invoices. Now you could see that there was a 30,500 balance. Earlier it was 80 something. We make fun of the receipt. Now it is 3,500. So this is still part of the open receivables. Open means unless and until a complete receipt or amount is received, it is considered as the open receivable. I can select this, add. I want to also select this and add. So now it is done. So I have selected two transactions, which is 2001 and 1 here. Let's see that. Now, let me first submit and auto apply. You could see that entered amount is 125, accounted amount is 125, total applied is 80,500 because we have two transactions which has having this amount. Now amount is due is 0. You could see that. And here there is something unapplied amount. Unapplied amount means so the customer has paid excess amount, but the overall transactions are only these two, which we applied. So next time when the customer is when we are going to send a invoice or transaction to the customer, at that time this amount will be adjusted. So if we create the accounting here, you could see that there is a concept of unapplied amount as well. Confirm cash, we have received 125,000. In this one, there is receivable means to the transaction or to the customer, 50,030. Then there is unapplied cash. Unapplied cash means you could see here the account unapplied receipts. This is an excess amount. We could not apply to any of the relevant transactions or invoices. So this will be in the account as the excess amount from customer. Next time it will be adjusted. So there can be one of the scenario as well. Why I'm repeating this or why I'm saying this? Because in the interview they will ask what is the difference between applied amount and unapplied. So this is the concept. So we can save and close. So this is all about in terms of the receipts, and tomorrow I will cover a concept of bills receivable. So what is the concept of bill receivable? I will cover it tomorrow. Then we will continue on. I will stop over here. Any questions, please?